Welcome, everybody, to the Hot Route with Gup and Ryan. We are now live with the new logo, the new imaging. Hopefully, by this time next week, I will have the intro stuff built as well. It is Thursday, October 28th. We got 12 games on the slate. Right now, use the code HOT for 20% off any package, which includes a 7-day risk-free trial. If you don't like what you see, cancel, and you will never get charged. Rate and review us on iTunes. That goes a long way in helping us. And plus, I go back there. I gave away 2 winners today on the Cup with Gup from Rate and Reviews, Millie ticket winners. So if you haven't done that, go do that. I'll be looking at that more and more often. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel and like this video. In the comment section, tell me your favorite running back on the slate, not named Derrick Henry, and that'll get you into the drawings that I will do next week. On Underdog right now, brand new offer they have. Deposit up to $100, get a free dollar-for-dollar match up to that $100. They have daily pick'ems right now for virtually every sport. NFL, college football, PGA, NASCAR, esports, all of it. MLB, World Series. They got some nice World Series pools going right now. NBA, like I said, just kicked off. Get on there now. The link is in the description. And start building your bankroll for the best balls. It'll be back in May, and we will have that covered throughout the summer. And lots of talk goes on in the GC Warrior Room. The nice thing about their pick'ems is I like both between them and Monkey Knife Fight, so you can look over see if you get an advantage on both. But they allow you to mix and match your bets, so you can get up to 20x your money depending on how many picks you pick, and you can pick between different sports. If you want to, take some NFL, college football, mix and match, NBA. On any given slate that night, you can do that. So I do like that. The app is really nice. It's a good time to get on there and take a look at it and get familiar with it before we get into best ball season next year. Like I said, we get 12 games on the slate. With me, as usual, Mr. Ryan. How are you doing this afternoon?
Doing great, man. I'm pumped for this weekend. A lot of the projected high-scoring games are not on the main slate, so it's kind of a cool week to pick and choose your matchups and just see where you want to go. So I'm excited for this one. It's been a lot of Chiefs on the main slate, and it's hard to get away from those games, and a lot of them haven't hit lately. I'm glad they're just kind of out of here and focus on that on Showdown, and then a nice 12-game main slate will be good to us.
Yeah, we get you got 4 double-digit spreads on the week again. It just continues to be a weekly thing. I talked about it on, I think, Monday or Tuesday's Cup with Gup, that there's a clear dividing line in the NFL right now in levels of team talent. 2 of those are one of those spreads is the Monday Night Football game, Chiefs -10. So only 3 that we'll see here. 2 of those are road teams. We have 7 road favorites this week. So that's a big number. Biggest I've seen. We had 6 a little while ago, but 7 road favorites. It always makes me a little cautious. Winning on the road in NFL is not easy. Kick it off with the ownership. Like I put out my first ownership, though I will say that I don't have anybody over 90% game ownership. You have 3 teams that are clear and away look to be where people are going to look to go with the Bills, the Rams, and the Chargers. The Titans come in next, but most of that is probably is Henry for the most part. And then it's just spread all out. So very easy to get leverage spots this week, but also probably difficult to try to avoid those 3 teams. But I mean, the Bills get to 72% ownership, Rams 60%, Chargers 62%. Obviously that can and will change as we lead up to kickoff. We'll begin with the Bucs at the Saints. Bucs 27.75, Saints 22.75. Where are you going here to start it out? Good game, should be competitive. The Saints play the Bucs and Brady well last year. Do they do it again this year, or are the Bucs just on a mission?
Yeah, I just think the Bucs can handle their business here against the Saints. In this game, both defenses really kind of shut down the run and let you try to beat them through the air. And that's something that Brady has not had any issue with at all this year. I know he had a couple bad games against the Saints last year. I know he did the first game. Don't really remember the second one, but I don't think he played well against New Orleans either time. But this year, I mean, there's no AB again, so it's looking that way. So I think you got Evans and Godwin again. Godwin, he's only 6,400, and Evans is only 7,000. I thought, after the big week last week, they might get a larger bump in price here, but they're still both affordable. And then Fournette, like, I guess it might be looked at as a letdown last week, but he still had 80 yards and a TD. I mean, he's just in a solid role right now. And then they didn't really need him in the blowout. So you got Ronald Jones out there running the ball and everything. So I think all the main usual suspects in the Bucks, Brady, Fournette, Evans, Godwin, are in play here. And then Kamara's finally getting this usage that we thought he should have early in the year, where, you know, he should have a floor of 20 touches. That's just the only way that this team has a chance to do anything. It's a shitty matchup against the Bucks front, you know, running wise. But if he's going to get 10 targets, I mean, that's why we like Kamara in the first place.
Now, do we know? I like the Saints in this game at home. I just think as a home dog there, I like them to cover. I don't know if they win, but I think they keep it close. Any impact with the former running back that just got traded back? I just lost his name.
Ingram's back now.
Ingram, is he? Will he be eligible this Sunday? Do we know that yet? I know that with COVID and all that kind of stuff, sometimes it takes a while, but I didn't know if he would be active for them this week. And does that probably doesn't impact Kamara? Do you think they just have that for a safety net or to give him a little more rest?
Yeah, I think it's safety net, but probably in other type games, like the way that he plays is kind of the way that the Buccaneers shut down the run. Like Kamara's a type running back that can beat the Bucks, whereas Ingram's more he's just going to pound it. So, you know, coming up in these games where, if the Saints are going to be favored, you know, unlike this one, I think Ingram's a good guy. If they get a lead or something like that, he can help pound the ball and kind of take some off of Kamara's shoulders.
Yeah, I could see this being a lower scoring game than usual. It's hard with the Bucks. I mean, Brady seems to be on a mission. He's kind of hinted at, you know, potentially trying to break certain records. So, do we know any status? One thing I haven't done yet, it's early on Thursday, is Michael. I know Michael Thomas didn't come back, obviously, last week. I think he's eligible to come back. Have we heard anything on that?
I have not yet, so that'll be something I have to look at later on in the week, and then I'd update on the Cream article in the bottom below the games when I do the Saturday morning updates.
I wonder what I can't. Maybe I can look here. I wonder what he's even in the slate at right now. If he happened to come back, I'll pull it up real quick and see if because it'd be interesting to see what he would obviously be if he's super cheap, a chalk piece. But yeah, he's on there 6,000, which is probably a good price if he plays. I think he'd be. I don't know if he'd be cash worthy if you trust him on his first game back, but definitely if he's not really tight. And I think it always goes into help. The later he's announced in, the better, because people don't move it. They already build their lineups. They don't move late. Those last minute, if it comes down to, hey, he got activated off the IR, but we still need to see if he's active Sunday morning, that's good. If he's, let's say Friday night, Saturday, they go, hey, he's going to play this week, probably get some ownership at that 6,000. So beware of that. I agree with most of that. Fournette did disappoint a little bit. Could be a good bounce back spot for him as far as ownership leverage. I got him right now around 8%. Fairly spread out on the running backs this week. There are, so like you said, not as many of the high flying teams per se. A lot of good running backs on this slate and a lot of areas you can go to be different this week. And Fournette could be one of those. I don't mind him. He's on the road. He does get involved in the pass game. Kamara, I do think it's going to be hard to run, but it was hard for him to run, Monday night, and they just threw him the ball. I don't, I think they would do similar, but obviously the Bucs are going to try to account for that. But, if they do utilize him like that, I do like that. Last thing we'll move on to the next game, if Thomas is back and in, does it hurt Kamara at 8,700?
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit take some target share away. I don't think I can go Thomas in cash, but definitely in a tournament. The $6K for him would be way too cheap compared to how he's been used in the past. So assuming he jumps right back into that role, why wouldn't they call the same plays that have worked with him? I mean, I guess the only reason why would be maybe Lombardi going to the Chargers. So maybe the offense just is different as a whole. Right. But I don't know, $6K for Michael Thomas when they really got no other options at wide receiver there. Right. That's intriguing.
Sure. I agree with that. Dolphins at Bills. Bills 31.5 to Dolphins 18.5. Bills right now projected to be the highest owned team on the slate. Do you avoid them and just hope for an ugly AFC East game up there in Buffalo, or do we try to get our pieces?
Yeah, it's tough because I could definitely see a fade because you don't necessarily know where the ball's going to go for the Bills every time. Like last time they played the Dolphins, it was the running backs that popped off. So Singletary and Moss. So if I went there, I'd probably pick Moss. I just think he's better, has more of a chance to score, multiple TDs in any game. And he's only 5,200. But then you have like Sanders is cheap again. Beasley's cheap at 4,900. With the Dolphins starting corners back out there, I'd probably just avoid Diggs and just go with these cheaper guys anyways, take the savings and just hope one pops off. But I don't know. I mean, obviously this game they could just blow them out again, but they did last time and like Allen didn't really hit and the receivers didn't. So it's tough. They could go a lot of different ways here, and that might be a good reason to fade some of it.
Yeah, Allen for me would probably be, I don't want to say fade, that's always hard, but 8,100, I currently have him as the number one projected own running or quarterback by a pretty good amount over, I have Brady number two. Because such a good strong running back slate. Like I like to save some money at quarterback and try to get a little higher up in these running backs who I think are on great spots. And like you said, a blowout happens and it turns into, well, if you don't get a Josh Allen rushing touchdown or if he doesn't, if he gets like 18 points before the blowout kind of happens, you kind of get a little side of that. I don't mind the Bills you called as a potential cash option there. Or a, tournament option for sure. The Dolphins paid off last week, and we talked about that game, Dolphins-Falcons being a good, sneaky game to attack, and it pretty much, for the most part, definitely paid off. I like Gesicki, and I like, Waddle. One thing probably to look at just as we get closer to Sunday is their injury stuff, because if some of their guys come back, that could, spread it out a little bit more. I don't think it impacts Gesicki as much as it would Waddle, but I agree with everything else there. I think Cole Beasley could be a nice play at 4,900, especially if you are looking to mini stack this game. This isn't a game I'd want to get all over as far as stacks go, because if you get blowouts or defensive touchdowns, stuff like that, it's not going to be ideal. Next game is one of my favorite games on the slate. Titans at Colts. Titans 1 point favorite on the road. It's actually flipped a little bit now. 25.25, 24.25. Virtually a pick 'em. I've been on Wentz for a while. That first game that he said he felt healthy, I think it was Monday Night Football, loaded up on him. And I had it in the 2-2-2-2. Won a good amount of money there. He's playing better. He's looking better. Jonathan Taylor's looking good. Pittman's, I think the clear number one wide receiver, and he's still only 5,300. I think that's one of the best values on the slate. Henry's, that's just he's turned into McCaffrey, but he's 8,900. When McCaffrey was McCaffrey, I believe we saw him in some 10K stuff. So I still feel like that's cheap. What do you think on Pittman, Henry, and the others?
Yeah, I pretty much just had Henry, Taylor, and Pittman here. But I mean, in any game like that, Tannehill has his two main targets in there. Any one of those two big receivers can pop off. But I just like I think Derrick Henry's in a great spot for us to target for fantasy because, again, he's coming off that game where he burnt people. He did have that. He threw a touchdown, but he didn't do what everyone thought he was going to do.
Yep.
And he's got 3 TDs in 3 different games this year. They've only played 7 games. I mean, he has more of a chance to score multiple TDs in any game than any other player on the slate. So, yeah, 8,900 is not enough money. And people are going to see that the Colts are number 1 in run D DVOA, and they got that red 4 next to Henry's name. That's going to keep people away from clicking Henry. So maybe you don't need to force him in cash, but in tournaments, I mean, I'm fine with him either way. But in tournaments, I think he's going to have a lower ownership than we've seen, especially coming off the bust week. So, yeah, I mean, I love him this week. And Taylor, these two have the most carries, inside the red zone and inside the 5 in the NFL. I mean, these guys can score anytime. Taylor's at a great price too at 7,200. He's just been having huge weeks. So I love that price too. And then Pittman, I also included in cash.
Yeah, I got Henry sub 20%, which is low for him. Eckler's my highest owned running back on the slate. I was going to see Wentz 5,700. Titans are playing better D, but their secondary is still not. I mean, they can be thrown on. Could be a potential low play this week to go Wentz. If you go Wentz, Pittman, and run it back with Henry, you still have a ton of money left because 5,700 for Wentz, 5,300 for Pittman. It's not a bad little small combo. And in a way that little 3-man would be different is that you avoid Taylor, who I love Taylor. Maybe if you do a 3 max, and one of your other lineups, you bring Taylor in to put some lineup correlation, but wouldn't be a bad way to start a lineup.
I like Wentz
Henry.
more if Ty plays too. And Ty's like, he's questionable right now. I think leaning toward probable. But if he plays, like his one game with Wentz, he had 80 yards. And that's not necessarily saying you got to jam Hilton in there, but I just like having one more weapon out there that can spread it out and give Wentz another option. So they seem to have a pretty good rapport in game one.
I think that's a good point as well. I have Hilton as planned. He's my number 32 overall wide receiver at $4,900. So I don't mind that either if you want to get into a stack where I don't think that stack's going to be as obvious or popular this week. Next game, we got Patriots 21.5 at Chargers 27-point total. This Patriots seems hard to figure out at times. I don't know. I don't think Mac Jones is viable here per se, but at 5,200 in a tournament, it doesn't. I wonder if, because Belichick likes to prove people wrong, and this would be proving him wrong, but I do think he could try to showcase Jones a little bit going up in that big matchup against Herbert. The problem is that they have Jacoby Myers, and that's really it at wide receiver. How do you see this one playing out?
I just, I've been wrong about the Patriots as well. Like you said, like I was wrong about that Cowboy game. I thought they'd go out there and just spank him. It didn't happen, but this is a little different. Whereas, I think that was in New England, was that game?
Yep.
Cowboys game?
Mm-hmm,
yeah. So this is, they just come off that easy blowout last week. And then you travel across the country, play the Chargers off a bye week. And they've just been lighting everyone up until that one Raven game. And now they had a bye week to kind of figure it all back out. I don't know. To me, it just feels like kind of an explosion spot for the Charger offense where they can kind of get it going again and be like they were, before that Ravens game. So I like that side of the ball, and then maybe run it back with Myers or something like that, because like you said, that's really all they got going right now. And that's it. I think their best thing they can do is run the ball, and they're not going to be able to, and I don't think they'll be in a script here where they can do it. So,
yeah, so probably the one thing I always try to think about when someone's playing Belichick, always his number one deal is to take away your best asset. Do you think he tries to take away Eckler or like Mike Williams, Allen type?
I think probably like one of the receivers. It's hard to – Eckler's weird too because they just use him differently in this offense. I thought he'd have a much bigger game when they were down against the Ravens like that than he did. And I guess he had a good amount of targets, but they didn't really do much with him. I don't know. I don't think you can really, because they have 3 big guys that can do a lot of things, plus a good, decent tight end in Cook, it's really hard to just focus on one thing. I think Herbert's good enough and Lombardi's good enough in the offense to just, if you're going to take away this guy, we're just going to beat you elsewhere.
A tournament flyer for me that I'll probably write up would be Bolden. They're slowly starting to use him in the James White role. Had a pretty good week last week. I know it was an easy game, but they're trusting him to catch the ball more. He's $4,500. If we don't get any value opened up by Sunday, MME flyer only, nothing to lock in. But that was the only note I made in just watching that game film. And it's historical. He's taking a James White role right now, and that's always a good role to have some pieces of at that price. Rams at Texans, 31.25, 16.75. Man, the Texans are bad. You could load up on the Rams here. If we try to get cute and avoid them. And Cooper Kupp's, if we didn't have Jamar Chase right now going on, I think Cooper Kupp would be, all the talk, but Chase being a rookie, I think is overshadowing some of that. But this dude just continues to dominate. He is up to 9,000. Do we stack the Rams? Are the Rams the new Chiefs where we just stack them and they're going to blow? They have probably their best matchup of the year. Henderson let a lot of people down, including myself last week. What are your thoughts here? The Texans, there's only one play you could even think about, and it's Cooks. I guess we could watch to see if what's his name comes back this week. It looked like he may come back as far as healthy, Tyrod, but not maybe wait one more week. I don't know if they want to roll him out against the Rams in this comeback game. So, but even if he played, I wouldn't want him. But it may boost Cooks or something like that. But I think it's either stack Rams or move on from here.
Yeah, I agree. It's and I do like Cooks more if Tyrod does play. But yeah, I think this is the good spot to go back to Henderson. I don't think a lot of people thought last week would play out as it did. The Lions just scored that long touchdown to Swift to start the game. Then they kick it onside and get that. And then now all of a sudden it's like it's not a Henderson game at that point. It's Stafford's got to go balls to the wall, just get back, take the lead back. And once they got the lead, Henderson got some carries, but they were just passing so well at that point. There's no reason to stop. Kupp is 9,000, but he's on pace to break like Jerry Rice's big season record. Yards and touchdowns and all that. Like it's like 1,900 yards and 20-something TDs or something he's on pace for, or 20 TDs, but it's just insane. I think if there was a different name there besides Cooper Kupp and he was 9,000, we'd probably just lock him in every single time. But because it's Cooper Kupp, like, I don't know, can he really, like, you look at him, you're like, how's this happening every week? And he just continues to do it. I like him. I don't know. I think 9,000 is getting a little rich for cash probably. I'd probably just stick with the Henderson route here, but he's made me eat it in the past this year, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's a lot, but I think we also are conflicted because new quarterback, and it just seemed because in the past it was always Kupp Woods would rotate pretty good among games as far as who went off. It seems like Stafford and Kupp are just locked at the hip, so you kind of got to put that aside. I don't mind Woods at 6,300, but his production definitely warrants the 9,000. I guess I still have a hard time going a Kupp at 9,000 over a Henry at 8,900 as far as floors and all that kind of stuff. Potential blowout here, probably will be a blowout, and if it isn't Kupp that gets out early and they get up, and then they start running the ball and stuff like that in the second half, he could be a big bust this week. I think most people are going to be scared to fade him at this point because he just keeps killing everybody. So I think the ownership will still be there, and at that high price, I tend to move away from it. The one thing about Cooks I would keep an eye on, he's probably going to play and all that, but he's not very happy after the Mark Ingram trade. He made comments about it. Maybe he's looking to get traded out of here before the deadlines are over at this point.
How could you not? I can't even imagine being there in that position. I feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, and it's different with the pissed off wide receiver versus a pissed off like running back. Because a running back, they're still going to give you the ball, and you can't just sit there and get hit. Wide receiver can kind of half-ass or whatever. I just would 5,700 is still a decent price, but I'm probably just taking the Rams and moving on. Like you said, maybe if Tyrod comes back, a little boost to Cook, so maybe wouldn't mind that either. Eagles 25.25 at the Lions 22.25. Eagles got obliterated last week. Did not see that one coming. Lions keep fighting tough. They pulled out every trick in the book to try to beat the Rams. Probably a fairly decent game environment where you could see some points scored. Kind of similar to the Falcons, Dolphins last week. They'll be scored in different ways. I don't mind this game because I think we could see some good back and forth in a turn. It could be an ugly game for sure, but Detroit's not stopped a lot of people. And even though Sanders is out, that gives a boost to Hurts. I definitely don't mind Gainwell with him out, but it does. Last week the only concern was as soon as Sanders went out, Gainwell didn't just take over everything, which you would like to see. They put Boston Scott in there to kind of take that role. Where are you at in this game in general?
Yeah, I feel the same way that you do. I like this game a lot. Neither defense can really stop anyone. So that's kind of what we're looking for. And it's what we thought exactly with the Falcon-Dolphin game last week. Not all of that played out as we thought, but we pretty much hit the Dolphin side perfectly. And then, Ridley scored but didn't get his. But, this game feels the same to me where, like, Hurts and Swift are both great in cash. It'll be hard for me not to play both in cash this week. Hurts too he's just so scary. Like you get to the third quarter and you're like, man, is this the week where he busts? And then he just, he finds a way to get those rushing TDs and cheap garbage points at the end. And that's fine with me. That's what we're playing him for. I'm not worried about that. And Swift too, there's only like 4 running backs that have more, expected PPR points than him this year. And DraftKings being a PPR site and him being 7,100, that's going to work out well. The Eagles defense too, they're like 30th in defensive adjusted line yards or 29th in run D DVOA. They can't stop you from running the ball on them. So, if they do feed Swift here, that's a great play. And then you got Devonta Smith, Goddard, I think are now just a clear 1 and 2. They kind of were before, but Got a little clearer when Ertz left, and I like both of them, and they're 5,500 and 4,700, so it's not a bad pairing with Hurts, who's up to 72 now, but you save a little bit on the receivers. And for the Lions, Hawkinson's always there. And then Khalif Raymond, Goff was quoted saying how he loves Raymond and trying to give him the ball more and more, and they're developing a good rapport. He's only 5,300, might be worth a flyer there, but I think only in tournaments, not in cash or anything.
Yeah, I talked about Raymond as a waiver wire pickup on Tuesday's pod. I think he's their clear go-to at this point. Similar things you said. Definitely could get, you do a mini stack out of here, or even a good game stack. Hurts, Swift, Devonta, Raymond. Then bring in like a Jonathan Taylor that we talked about earlier. You could probably even fit Henry if you want to go that route, but Taylor's 1,700 cheaper. And I think you can mix and match some of these minis. Maybe even like you start out there, Hurts, Swift, Devonta, Raymond, and then bring in a mini, like a Darrell Henderson and Cup. You get two pieces of that Rams if they go off, plus you save so much money in this environment. We have one of these games every week we talk about. For the most part, we've been pretty accurate in it. Do you like Goff at all? I don't know. I think it'd be Hurts at quarterback only for me. I don't think last week I could have went either way between Tua and Matt Ryan, but I could see Goff. 5,200 is cheap. Do you like him at all? If you're trying to get as a sneaky tournament stack,
it's cheap, but he's been pretty cheap all year and fails every time. I kind of just like taking the one-offs here. And then the other thing that kind of moves me away from Goff is just how easy it is to run on the Eagles. So if for any chance the Lions do get ahead, I think that they can run the ball on them. And and if they're behind too, Swift will get both carries and catches. So I'd rather just stick with the position players.
No, I agree with all that. Panthers 21.75 at Falcons 24.25. I continue to be higher on the Falcons than most. Good game last week. Panthers are struggling a lot. It doesn't look like I don't even think McCaffrey's eligible to come back yet. Anything here that sticks out to you? Seems like this game could be a Falcons. Can give up points. We've seen that. Panthers are struggling in general. I don't like it as much as the Eagles-Lions game, but I do like pieces out of it.
Yeah, that's how I think. Just the Falcons' defense is so bad that they can score. So it's like you said, they might be better than people think. They do put up points, but their defense is still really bad. They don't put any pressure on the quarterback. They can't cover anyone. So, if there is any game where, Sammy Darnold can figure it out, it should be here. I just, they've just looked so bad, but it's hard to believe that they just completely forgot how to play football after the hot, first 4 weeks or so. And they're getting a bunch of targets, Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. So at any given point, I think one of them can go off. Robbie Anderson's only 4,700. He's seeing double-digit target games now. If he can either hold on to the ball or Sam can get him the ball, one of these weeks he's going to have a big week. And the Eagles, or not the Eagles, the Falcons, they can't get any pressure. So if Robbie's running some deep routes, something like that, maybe, Darnold's got some more time to throw the ball and can find him. I don't know. It's hard to get away from it in a tournament. But again, the only person in this game I'd consider for cash would be Ridley. Still 6,600. Kind of had the dud last week, but he did score and saw all the targets. I think he'll catch a lot more this week in a much softer matchup.
Yeah, and I'm still high on Patterson. I've been high on him for a while this year. I think most people just continue to write off that he was really that. I think it's clear he's the number one guy now. He's my number 8 ranked running back, $6,200, probably sub 7-8%. Another one of those ones I talked about. You got 10 to 15 just solid running backs you can get to this week. So I don't mind some Falcon stacks by any means. They're at home. They always seem to play good there. Ryan's in play, like you said. Ryan, Ridley, Patterson, run it back with one of these, or even Pitts, and run it back with DJ Moore, Anderson. Anderson probably will be less owned because he just he seems to be falling, out of the limelight. But he's so cheap that I'd rather, if I'm doing a one-off, I may rather go that over DJ Moore. But at Moore's price in this situation, I don't think he'll be very high owned either. So I think you could run it back with either one of those and take a chance on that. And you say you have the Falcons here, so is that just tournament, or do you like them in cash?
Yeah, Falcons D in tournament, because I just don't know. it's just the unknown here. It's like, can the Panthers offense play football again? I don't know. I'd like to think that they can score on the Falcons and someone can have a big game. But if they can't do it here, then I think they just are. They're really dead. So, we'll see. And I put Darnold in there. I mean, even for a tournament, he's risky because if he gets benched again, then you're screwed. But Falcons D, though, can score and still give up 20 points. I mean, it's, I don't mind him for 2,900.
Chuba's only 6,000, maybe worth a flyer. He's not going to be very high owned at all. He's got good. I mean, he can break away, but he's definitely not CMC. Maybe that's just what they need. Teams when he's there, they're just such a different offense. I would think Chuba's not. I mean, he's a downgrade for sure, but I'm not blaming it all on him. This offense just seems inept as of late. Yeah. Bengals 27.75, one of the hottest teams in the league. At the Jets 16.25, maybe the worst team in the league. Talk to me about this game in general. Bengals coming in off a big win. Is this a letdown spot? Maybe their biggest win in 20 years. Beating the Ravens, now sitting number 1 in the AFC. They keep it rolling. Chase, Higgins, stack it up. Anybody from the Jets you like?
I don't like anyone really from the Jets here, and I would normally agree with you. Like, this could be a letdown spot traveling after that game, but, I mean, this is the Jets we're talking about, and they're just – I mean, they didn't even look like a real NFL football team last week. It's tough to think they can do anything here. And the Bengals are legit good. Like, they are – we were wondering if they were good as all the numbers said, and then they did that last week. I mean, they are just a good football team. So I think their defense, they get my number 1 defensive rank for the week. I think it's going to put them in great field position all day. And while I do think Burrow and Chase and all those guys can score, I'd probably just stick with the value here because if they are in short field all day long, maybe it's finally time for Mixon to get a couple, rushing TDs, something like that. I like Mixon in any format this week, cash, tournament, whatever. And then same with T. Higgins. He's only 5,200 still, but he's, I feel like he's leading the team in targets most weeks. And, just the production hasn't been there like Chase because he's not busting the long TDs, but they're in shorter field. I mean, I think he can get, punch a TD in, something like that. And, if he's getting 7-8 catches for 5,200, that's going to be an awesome day.
Yeah, such a price savings off Chase and Higgins. And Chase is going to be high owned. I mean, he's getting in that, you keep seeing it and people are like, well, it's, big plays only. And which it is to an extent, but he's still involved. But now you're paying for it, right? You're 7,500 compared to a 5,200 Higgins, who I still like. I agree with you. Mixon seems a little cheap to me at 6,900 against this defense. I don't mind Burrow as well. I mean, you could stack this. Let's see what I got him on team ownership, 51.3. So not horrible on team ownership. I don't think you have to run it back with anything. I think you just do some one-off stacks and mix and match from there with some of these one-off pieces we talked about earlier. Not much to say about Jets. I can't get anything there. I don't necessarily like the spread. I never like to lay double digits on the road. But if I was going to go somewhere, it'd be the Bengals. I can't take the Jets right now, but that'd be a pass for me this week. Pretty big game next. Jaguars 20.5 at Seahawks 23. The Seahawks need this win. Wilson won't be back. They look god-awful. That entire game was not very good at all. Jaguars, get the win over in London. Lawrence is starting to pick up some things. Do we attack this game? Is this a potential, just a lull game with the way these teams have been operating? I'm not all in on the Jaguars, but I definitely don't mind some of the pieces. That offense, the way the Seahawks were, though, I don't know if I can trust it at all.
Yeah, that was hard to watch. It's hard to believe that Geno can. I mean, that's your best option at backup quarterback. That was just very bad. I would love Collins here if Penny wasn't back. And I just wish they wouldn't play Penny. I mean, he just looks like shit every time he's out there. And Collins actually looks good when he's given the chance. I don't know. He's only 5,300. So I put a lot of these guys in here for tournament plays and really just put the 2 defenses as, potential cash plays if you're trying to save some money. Because I don't think either defense is really good, but neither offense is that good. So it's tough to really, find your spots here. I like James Robinson. He's been getting, about 20 touches a game. That's good for me. Again, I think there's other options in that price range I'd rather have in cash, so I just play him in tournaments. And then Alex Collins, he's actually one of my favorite tournament plays at 5,300. I just think the talent's going to win out there. He's better than Penny. Has looked better than Penny. And when given the opportunity in game scripts where they could be ahead, or against a bad defense, and he's kind of showing up. So he's one of my favorite tournament savers at 5,300.
Yeah, and I have the Jaguars as my top cheap defense of the week, $2,400. The offense just hadn't looked good enough. It wouldn't take much. I don't care about the point scoring, but a couple turnovers, that price certainly. You got to think the Jaguars are. I think they're still in care mode, and they just won. So this be a big win for that program if they're trying to rebuild, and they are. Must win for the Seahawks if they want anything to get Russell back. One guy I talked about in the waiver wire who's getting a little more looks. He's only $47. Will be Chenault. They get him gadget plays at times, but he is, looks to be syncing up with Lawrence a little bit. Maybe a flyer in a tournament at best, but also something just to keep an eye as we move forward. If the Jaguars do come out here, maybe they lay one on them and Lawrence starts to look better and better. I flirted with Lawrence potentially being a play this week at 5,500. He does have some rushing upside. It'd be a tournament play only, but any interest there? Seattle's D just hadn't looked great to me at all.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I mean, that's why I have a lot of guys listed under tournament here. So I'm still trying to figure this one out heading into the weekend. I'm hoping to read something where we get some more clarity on, the Seahawks running back side of things. And then another guy who intrigued me that's cheap, which is there's not a lot of value this week right now too, which made writing this pretty hard. I'm hoping, once we get to the weekend, there might be something that clears up, makes it a little easier, at least cash wise. But Jamal Agnew's 3,700, and over the last few weeks, he seems to be developing a nice rapport as well. So, if you could do a lot worse for only 3,700, if he's going to catch 5 or 6 balls, he might score you 10 points or more, and that's a good savings. When I can't really find anyone below 4,000 this week that I would feel comfortable with, and normally there's always one or two guys that pop up.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely, as it stands right now, looks like a tough value week, which is why I talked about earlier, Henry looks good, Kupp looks good, but some of the options we have around him to put 2, 6, 7K running backs in to save that money may be valuable this week if we don't have anything break open. I also think it's a week you could look at some quarterbacks that we've already mentioned, potentially, like a Wentz. I just mentioned Lawrence. I don't know about Mac Jones for sure, but these are all tournament type stuff because if you need value, you can certainly get it there. Right now, like you said, there's not a lot of value on the slate that sticks out. And then what makes it worse is if you only get 1 or 2 piece, especially in tournaments, something breaks late. Well, most people are going to go there because this isn't a week where there was already good value. And so now it's like, do you want to take that chalky piece? Cash is perfectly fine if something breaks open, but tournament, that becomes a little bit of an issue. The football team travels to Denver, 23 points for Denver, 20 for football team. Man, they seem to be going down in a hurry up in Washington. Denver coming off not a very good game either. Any like here? I'm not real high on much in this game. I think it could be a snooze fest. Seals Jones still continues to be, I guess, viable because he's somewhat cheap, 2,800. I see you got Washington's defense at 2,100. I could see that. I don't know how the altitude. I don't typically tournament. Yeah, I could see it. I like to try to get home defenses, but this is one of the lowest implied totals of the week. Anything you just love here, or that you just try to pick some pieces out?
Yeah, I think just some pieces out. Seals Jones, since taking over, he's got like the 4th or 5th most expected PPR points per game. So, I mean, he's in an elite role right now. So if he's getting another start and going to run all those routes and they're going to be, I'm guessing they'll be, playing from behind, then Seals Jones is definitely in play in all formats for me. And then I think the Broncos, it's just like what the football team's been doing all year. They just have this like pass funnel defense and let you throw all over them. I kind of like, Teddy here as a tournament play with Sutton. And if he gets Judy back, which I think Judy's going to play this week, you already have Noah Fant healthy. Their other tight ends going to play. He's loaded with his weapons with everyone except for Hamler, is what they expected this year. And I just kind of like him for, like you said, in a tournament, you're going to save a quarterback. Teddy is not one that anyone likes to click on. And this is a good matchup against the Washington pass D.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is Judy for sure back? I hadn't got that far in the research.
As of now, I think he's leaning toward probable, but I'm not sure how much he'll, play.
Yeah, if he's back, that'll boost not only Bridgewater but that offense in general. And we've seen, probably one of the biggest disappointments on either side of the ball this year is Washington's defense of what expectations were versus where they're at right now in the season. 2 more games to wrap it up. Both games are very, very low scoring. Steelers 19.5 at Browns 23. Banged up Baker says he has a strong chance to play, or absolutely possible, I think was his words. Typical AFC old school Central, now North. I see this as a kind of a slobber knocker, low scoring, run the football, especially if Baker's out. Similar to what the Browns-Broncos was last week. 17-14 was the final there. I could pick a piece or two off of here, but nothing excites me. What about you?
Yeah, same thoughts. I think Chubb will be back in this game, so he'll split carries with Johnson. And really the only player I'd consider in cash, but I don't even think you necessarily need to go there, would be Deontay Johnson. He's just not – his price doesn't ever go up. He's always like in the mid-60s. He's 6,700 this week. He sees double-digit targets a week. He always crushes in any matchup. I just love the guy. And then, without Juju too, Claypool is always in play for a tournament. And Najee Harris, I just can't get away from too for tournaments, just seeing all the volume he does, even in games where, they can't really break it out in the run, which would be hard against this Browns good run defense. He can catch a lot of passes. So, and then I even put the Browns D in for a tournament play because, there is a scenario where Browns D gets a bunch of sacks on Roethlisberger, but Deontay has, 8 catches for 100 yards. So it's and could score. So they can both score here. It's like you said, it's a slobber knocker type divisional game. Not much to go on here.
Yeah, I definitely think if Chubb's one to watch, if he wound up being out or maybe there's hints of limited, Johnson at 5,400 would be somewhat of value on the slate and would be playable even against Pittsburgh, in my opinion, at that price. He looked good last week. But if Chubb's back, they still like to use both, but, it definitely takes away from that potential. Last game on the slate, 49ers 21.5, at Bears 18. Your boys, your 49ers, I know you're not feeling very strong on that organization at the moment.
Wow.
Bears are at home. I don't even get the 3.5 favored on the road. It seems like a missed line there. I know Bears aren't good, but I can't imagine maybe Houston or the Jets 49ers being favored on the road right now the way they've been playing. I kind of agree with you on some of your plays. Mitchell, Debo's always can take one quickly. Kmet definitely has been in play with Fields, and then the Bears D I don't hate either. I have them written down for stuff later. Number 2 actually I have both these teams up there. They're only 2,700, so number 2 on my overall defensive rankings right now. Your 49ers, what do you think you see this week?
Not much, unfortunately. I can't really. They're so hard to watch. And I think that, like you said, 3.5 point favorites on the road. Somehow Shanahan gets this boost, this Belichick boost that you see in these lines, and I don't get why he does it. He's 31-39 as a head coach, and that includes his 13-3 season. He's just not. He does not doing a good job. Last week they're running the counter plays. They run down the field, score twice on both those drives. They ran those plays. He never called them for the rest of the game. And even Leonard was saying after the game for the Colts, he's like, thank you for stop running the plays that work. All that misdirection, we couldn't figure it out, and then he just stopped running it. So it's just weird how he's calling plays. If he does call the good plays, Eli Mitchell for 5,400, he's going to be in play here because I do think they can kind of bully the Bears front and run the ball. And if he's going to get 20 to 25 carries, that could be a guy, like we said, if we're starving for value this week, definitely not a cash play. But if you're looking to save something in a tournament, he could have 100 yards and a TD again. And then Debo is very expensive. It's hard to play him at this price with such bad quarterback play, but he just keeps performing no matter who's out there. So it's tough. They have no one else to throw to, especially with Kittle down. So he's the only guy getting the targets, and he can bust big plays. But and then Kmet, not a bad cash play. I'd like to see Graham, out again. Not like Graham's taking much from him anyways, but it's just nice to know he'll be running all the routes and getting all the targets at tight end. So he's only 3,100, so he can't really kill you there in cash. But For a tournament, you might want to try to find someone with more of a ceiling. But yeah, pretty ugly game here.
Do you think the Jimmy or Lance sees the field at all?
I think, yeah. I mean, if he's healthy enough, but then if Jimmy just gets like, he's not going to get booed out of there in Chicago. He'll get cheered. But if he's just not doing anything here, there's no reason to play him anymore. Unless they're looking for a trade or something that I don't know about, that'd be the only reason to put him out there right now, because you're not learning anything.
This should come out probably middle of the Thursday night football game, like usual. Any final thoughts from you? 12 games on the slate. Good slate. It'll be interesting to see. Like you said, tough slate right now at some of the value spots. Not a ton of just standout chalk that makes everything fit. And when I say that, it's about, you can't get, if you go Henry Cup, something like that in tournaments, it's really hard to make any of that fit right now. So I think obviously the more news we get leading into Sunday morning can help open some of that up. I do think it's a week where you can pay down at quarterback because there are so many good running backs to fit in there, some great spots for wide receivers, some great cheap combos that we mentioned, like a Wentz Pittman. I like if Judy's back, like you said, Bridgewater, Judy, and you don't have to go all in on those games. Just get a couple pieces, and then now you can go pay up for whoever you like, whether it's Cup or Henry or whatever. Any final thoughts from you?
No, I totally agree with all that. I think as of now, you just gotta keep checking back on the article and what we post on the site, just because there will be some value that opens up. We just don't know what it's going to be yet. So just keep looking. If you scroll all the way down in my article and look at the cash considerations, you're going to realize it's kind of hard to build without that value. So as of now, I mean, I think it's a lot of mid-tier, as far as pricing goes, players in great matchups, and that might be it. And you might have to kind of skip out on those top price studs, and you can be fine and still cash from there. One thing I noticed too, and this is, I mean, it's defense, so really who gives a shit, but I'll just mention it because I noticed it. But like, Bengals are only 3,600. I just think that's kind of weird. The teams that have been playing the Jets or in these good matchups have been like between 4,000 and 5,000 right now. So I know it's hard to like say there's a value on defense, which is so unpredictable, but 3,600 seemed like a weird price there. Same thing with the Bills, only 3,300 against the Dolphins, and they're home.
Yeah, and those, if we don't get value, those type of defenses are going to be super low owned because everybody's going to go cheap defense, probably cheaper at tight end. There's no, Waller, Kelsey, none of that. Pitts is my number one projected, but he's 63, so people may go down to your Arnold, Sweeney's. If there's no value that opens up, that's where people are going to try to save it, so I definitely agree with that. Reminder, Monkey Knife Fight, been on a roll there. I will have my plays for NFL and college football out on the coin flip. Go check that out. I've already released PGA and Thursday night football plays. $100 match, dollar for dollar. Use the code GUPS. It is in the link if you want to check out Monkey Knife Fight. Been hitting about 70% rate in the last 3 weeks. Cooled off last weekend, but we're ready to get it back going this week. College Football Pod with Bobby Berger. The read option over the DFS main slate on Saturday will drop tomorrow morning. Coin Flip was released earlier this afternoon. Live member chat Sunday morning, 10 Eastern. And lastly, use the code HOT. Get 20% off any package. Includes a 7-day risk-free trial. Appreciate all you guys listening. Like, subscribe, rate, review goes a long way. And I will see you later on tomorrow. Thanks.